with the the retroactive provision, because I mean.
Well, what's this to? And I seem to be totally speaking here, but what is there to exclude us from getting those numbers?
Or you mean later on in the year? Before you take this?
Yeah, before the end of the year, and put together a memo to ratify something like that. You know, before the January 2nd date or anything like that. Can we get those things that quickly?
I wouldn't know about before January 2nd.
Well, I mean, I'm hearing Jack and I'm hearing Diane talk about the January 2nd date. Well,
I mean, could you?
At this point, I'm looking for guidance.
Well, could we? The main concern I have is what I call time delayed equity. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's a way you could take an action today, right. And subject to
the numbers.
The numbers, a majority of because it is really, in fairness, the commissioners have to fund it, subject to the commissioners, majority of the board of commissioners agreeing to the funding of it. Could we do that? And
what
we do that? I don't know.
It goes to the 140 talking there's a cost. Who is authorized to actually approve it? That the commissioners, since they fund it. I mean, can the pension board approve something that the commissioners can't fund?
Where'd our lawyer go? It says by rule. Whenever the board has by rule, it doesn't say by resolution, by rule, which in the past it didn't.
What does that mean? That's a good question because
I don't know. I'm not looking.
I mean, obviously, there's 3 commissioners on the pension board, so that for it to approve, you almost have to have 2 commissioners. Right? There's 5 members. So actually, 2 commissioners. That's the thing. 2 commissioners could oppose it. 1 commissioner could vote with the controller and treasurer and pass something. The 2 commissioners oppose.
Sure.
So they don't fund it in the budget. Who pays for it?
Well, that gets back to that issue that came up years ago on salary board. So I mean, the commissioners ultimately would have veto power through the budgetary process, Commissioner Kennedy. I mean, I guess that's the way of answering your concern. Yeah. If it ultimately becomes unbudgetable, then you.
This is why this guy's ahead of the budget. That's why I keep saying to him.
Well, yes.
But I mean, it could become unbudgetable. It could be budgetable for the next 3 years, and then you're 10, and you get a new board, and there's a certain point where, an act is an act, and an action's an action. And in the past, even though I don't think there was any, when there was, I was around here the last time I was a deputy, when we moved up. Okay. The legislature increased, we moved to the 160th basis. And I don't remember anything being there in part of that action that said subject to the commissioner's budget. But we could do that. I wouldn't have an aversion to doing that, making that part of the motion today, subject to the commissioner's...
yeah, you're wearing your retirement board hat today.
Yeah.
And then next it's going to be your commissioner board hat.
Yeah.
I mean, right now you're here, you're here as a retirement board member.
Yeah.
But
I know you have a dual, triple.
It's one thing to support it theoretically, and it's a good idea, and we like that concept. But when it comes right down to the cost of doing that, without any even general numbers, which we don't have, it's one thing to like an idea, but if it is, without knowing it, I'm a little uncomfortable supporting it. I support the concept. So I don't know. That's why I asked about the window of how much time do we really need
or have. Balance of power speech, checks and balances. You want to hear that? Is it ready?
Well, is there a way? I mean, again, Diane and I are struggling with this thing of people falling through the cracks here.
Well, I understand that.
Is there a way we could do it, and then the board could, subject to the board's a study, a cost study, and a decision determination by the Board of Commissioners?
My mother used to work for Allegheny County. It came hospital many, many years ago. And when they increased their class size, they actually offered an early retirement. And And my mother, because she was so busy being a nurse, didn't talk to the maintenance staff. The maintenance staff knew more about the retirement bill than I think the retirement board did. My mother retired when this thing was pending, not knowing about it, and she fell through the cracks. And I actually called a friend of mine who was an Allegheny County solicitor at the time, and they had people that fell through the cracks, and that was simply, unfortunately, what they did.
Are there going to be people falling through the cracks no matter what time we do this?
Absolutely.
Well, it's a matter, it just was signed by the governor.
Right,
Okay,
right.
so
So the sooner that we act, the better.
there is, right
There's
now,
a smaller crack.
we checked
The
this
longer we
morning,
wait,
there's
the
no,
bigger the crack gets.
if you'd make this January 2nd, we looked, there's nobody going to fall through the cracks. But if you make it,
They've already retired.
Hmm?
They already retired prior to
The signing of the...
signing it.
Right, right.
But if you go to
Yeah.
we don't have any control when the governor
Right.
put a signature on this. And
Correct.
those people, Glenn Bargerstock's an unfortunate example. He retired a few months ago, but the bill wasn't passed.
Right.
So,
Right.
And many of us didn't, but what I have a concern about is us not taking action today when the board, many of us, I think at least a majority of the commissioners and certainly a majority of the retirement board have been sending letters off to our legislators supporting the action. You got county employees that
Right.
say, well, wait a minute,
You pushed for this, and now you're...
and we
Not
take action
responding.
later in the year, those individuals, whether it's one or whether it's 20, who don't get the
Yeah.
benefit, I think it's a little bit
Well,
unseemly, I guess.
the one to many, I remember I saw something once, and a child and a father are walking along the beach, and all these starfish are washed up, and they're dying. And the little boy picks up the one starfish and throws it back in the ocean. And Dad said, why did you do that? It doesn't really matter. Here, look at all these. And the little boy said, it mattered to that one, Dad. That one was saved, and that one matters. So narrower the window of time between the signature of the governor when we do it, the better I think it is for whoever is out there who may be retiring. And I feel that we've caught everybody that we can in that safety of this new ability to have this new 140th class. And maybe, right now this isn't the financial Diane, this is the other Diane, this is the feeling Diane, the person. And it's that time of year and everything, Christmas is 2 days away, and that's
That's screwed right there, Scott, tell me.
yeah, that humbug. But that's, I'm trying to keep the best interests of the employee, retiree. It matters to that person.
Well, does somebody want to make a motion then?
Since I'm on my I'd like to make a motion that the Butler County Retirement Board adopt the provisions of Act 43, which provides for a 140th class retroactively back to the employee's service credit date of start.
Is there a second?
Wait, effective
Effective 1/2 of 2004.
January 2nd of 2004.
Is that it? Is there a second?
I'll second. Now we can amend this.
Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, I want to have the financials done. I don't have a problem with, going with the second, but I got to have the financials in order for me to respond in a positive manner. Until I get those perspectives, I cannot respond in a positive manner. And my biggest fear is that my no vote will be perceived to be something else, within that. I certainly need that perspective.
Mr. Kennedy, would it help in your analysis, if the board's analysis? Of course, I don't know how quickly those numbers can put together. I mean, the board can always, recess and reconvene later on today if you want. That's your first option. The other option is I heard Jack mention about the reduction in the level of interest from 5.5% down to 4%. Is that something that can at least provide some offset for the cost of this action? And would you consider amending your motion there to give you better? I'm just trying to find a way to make it work.
We have next year to work all.
Yeah, we've got 12. We've got
to work that out.
We've got a year. The liability does not hit immediately. we've got a year to work out if there are funding, if there turns out to be funding issues. I mean,